Open our Bibles tonight to 2 Samuel chapter 13. Does it help you all by putting my scripture in the bulletin, or do you not read it until I call it out? Thumbs up for which one? In the bulletin? Okay. Several. All right, good. 2 Samuel 13. Came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair, beautiful, attractive sister whose name was Tamar, and Amnon, the son of David, loved her. I always want to substitute love there for lust, because his love was not love in the sense we think of it. Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. And Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, or Shemiah, David's brother, and Jonadab was a very subtle man. Same idea as Satan, was more subtle than any beast of the field. And he said unto him, Why art thou, being the king's son? In other words, you're entitled to take whatever you want. Anything you want, you're the king's son. You deserve it. You have a right to it. Why art thou lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Now, there was a lot of half-brothers. David had many wives, and he had children by many of those wives. So it says she was my brother Absalom's sister, means that they had the same father. Absalom and Tamar had the same father, but they did not have the same mother. And you'll see that throughout Samuel and even parts of Kings. And Jonadab, in verse 5, said unto him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I might see it and eat it at her hand. I'll emphasize a couple of words later on. So Amnon lay down, made himself sick, and when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. Then David went home to Tamar, saying, Go now to thy brother Amnon's house, and dress him meat. Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down. And she took flour, and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan, and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. I'll come back to that. And Amnon said, have out all men from me. And they went out, every man from him. And Amnon said unto Tamar, Bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her and said unto her, Come, lie with me, my sister. She answered him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. And I, whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. In other words, let's do it right. Ask my dad for my hand in marriage, and my dad will gladly give you my hand in marriage. Just don't do anything without marriage. Howbeit, he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, Arise, be gone. Get out of here. As I said this morning, there were several S's still in our series of Bible characters. But for some reason, I could not get peace with any of the names that I hope to go back to later. But when I got down to Tamar, for some reason, she jumped out at me as I was reading. Now, there are several Tamars in the Bible, different people altogether. They just simply share the same name. Like, Bob. How many people are named Bob? My son was at the house today watching the Bengals. And lo and behold, one of the players, and I don't remember if it was Bengals or the other team, but one of their players was named Wilbert, Wilbert. And I thought, I didn't know I played football. And my grandkids said, Granddad, you can't. You don't. So there are several Tamars. But we're only going to look at this one for tonight. I'm not sure, and I have, kind of struggled with this ever since last week. I don't know why I feel so strongly drawn to this particular lady at this particular time. But for some reason, I feel pretty strongly that this message is needed by someone present, someone who is listening online, or someone who will watch it even down the road. But even for us, it has been estimated, and I think the number may be a little low, that probably half of us know someone who has been molested. I bet if you stop and think, at least half of you, maybe more, know someone who has been molested. Estimates are that over half of all molestations go unreported. And I'll deal with why in a few minutes. The number of known cases is very high. But if half of them go unreported, that means the number of cases are even higher than we think. I want to look at Tamar. Want to look at some characteristics of her. And as I go through, I will make application, but at the very end, I will make some real lessons for us. But I want to look at her and what led up to it to a degree, what happened, and what happened afterwards. First of all, in looking at Tamar, it said in verse 1 that she was fair, beautiful, very, very nice looking. You don't have to be beautiful for some man to admire and lust after you. But if you're halfway good looking, your odds just went up several points. She was very good looking. There was nothing she could do about that. She was born with certain genes, like certain people are 6'6", some are 4 foot. We are born with certain limits and certain feats and characteristics that we cannot change. But she was very beautiful. She had a garment of divers colors. If you read on down in verses 16 on down beyond. A coat or garment of many colors means that she was special. She was someone of royalty. She was someone who was somebody. It also signified purity because after Amnon was done, one of the first things she did was rip her garment off of divers colors because she was no longer pure. And you can read that in the following verses. She was also very innocent. I find that a lot of girls are totally innocent and pure when it comes to men. Over the years, I've had a couple of instances where, and it was always in a crowd, so it was not me off in a corner with some young girl. It was always in a crowd where she would be talking about her boyfriend and different things, and someone, not me, but someone would say, you need to be careful. Men frequently have ulterior motives. And the young girl's answer was, on every instance that I recall, oh, I trust him. And that's when I stepped in and said, young lady, trust no man. Oh, he would never trust no man. He's a man. Tamar was innocent. She never suspected anything. She had no idea how men think. And if you're married, I hope certainly you have learned in your marriage that men don't think like women think. She was innocent. She had no idea how men react. Now, to all men, most sins are described in James 1:14 every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust. He already has those inordinate desires, and then he is enticed. Most girls have no idea how men think or how men react. Sadly, many moms either don't know or just don't care. And I went through this numerous times, trying to make sure there's a thin line I do not want to cross in public. But every mother should know when she lets her daughter walk out the door, the daughter can appeal through, somebody said, oh, she appeals to men by how she's dressed. I say she appeals to men by how she's not dressed. Any mom who would let her daughter go out dressed in such a way that she knows men are going to look, men are going to think, men are going to be enticed, men are going to, even if they never do anything physical, they think it, and it's in their mind, and while you're going about your daily business, they are lusting. And any mom that lets her daughter go out dressed like that ought to be taught some lessons. And that's the mild part. Why are you preaching this? Because people don't know. People don't understand. Girls leave home every day and have no idea of what they're doing or how they are doing it. Now, I'm not saying that if a man cannot control his lust, no matter what a lady does, men, you are still responsible to control your lust. But you can be tempted, and if you're not abiding in Christ, as we said this morning, you make yourself, you put yourself into a position to think, and then James goes on, every man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust. It can be food, it can be, you can lust after anything. Had a man last night over in Cincinnati tell me, he said, I have really good self-control on food. I have excellent self-control. And I don't know, it was some food I've never heard of. But he said, if I even so much as see a jar of whatever this stuff was, he said, I can't help it. I have to eat the whole jar. Not the glass, but the substance in it. Satan will put the temptation there. But as a man, you have the responsibility to resist. But that doesn't excuse the girl for pouring gasoline on the fire. I'm not saying that all girls are guilty, but certainly some are. Now, back to the outline. In verse 15, every man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. If you don't control that lust, it will somewhere down the line end in sin. And I mentioned, I don't know, whatever that food was, I never heard of it. And the way he described it, I really don't ever want to hear of it. But nobody put a gun to his head and made him take that jar, open that jar, and eat the whole jar of whatever was in. No one made him do that. No one makes you commit sin. But it starts with a lack of control of your own mind and your own heart. I said this morning, Satan knows your weakness. He knows what you lust after. And he will make sure that is the temptation that he puts in front of you. But back to Tamar. No one had told her the danger signs. She was innocent. She was pure. On the other hand, I've seen girls that had been taught that every man you pass on the street, every man you see in church, in Walmart, in Kroger, every man is a pervert who wants to molest you. Avoid all men at all costs. That's almost as dangerous as the other position. But you teach them certain things to look out for. She was kind. She had a servant's heart. Her brother Amnon pretended to be sick. He wasn't sick other than he was sick of love. He was sick, but it wasn't physical. Any man who does what he does is sick. And I say that without apology. But she was kind. He pretends to be sick. His dad comes to visit him. He said, Dad, I can't even cook. I'm so sick, I can't even cook. I'm so sick, I can't even feed myself. Would you send Tamar to fix me some food and feed me? David trusted him. Tamar trusted him. She went and prepared the meal like a servant. She wanted to help him heal. She was willing to do whatever she could to help somebody who was sick. But she was tricked. Now let me run through very quickly and give you some danger signs. And whoever is listening or will watch whatever later, start in verse 1. Well, actually, I didn't mark it. I usually mark these things. All right, give me just a second. Let me skim down. Verse 5 starts it, and then we'll see it again. Toward the end of verse 5. And dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it. Later on down, it says that he was watching her. Well, I'm not going to look for it because that takes away your attention. He was watching her the whole time she was cooking. If some guy can't get his eyes off of you, and he just looks at you everywhere you go, he's following you, he's looking at you, he's watching your every move, back up and take a broader look at the situation. Why can't he keep his eyes off of me? He's watching everything I do. He's looking at everything I do. Then it comes down and, would you come into my bedroom and feed me? Ding, 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 ding. Why does he want me in his bedroom? Oh, he's sick. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll get a wheelchair and we'll roll you in the kitchen. He'd come into my bedroom and feed me. Then the next thing is have all men exit the house. I don't want any witnesses around. Everybody get out of the house. See, all of these are ringing bells in my head. Ding, 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 ding. Why does he want all men to leave? Because if men are around, one of them may try to stop him. I don't want any witnesses. I don't want any men trying to stop me. All of these are warning bells. Apparently, she was so innocent, so trusting, that she still had no clue what he was doing or why. He had it all planned. He got her in the room, had the whole house to himself, and once she realized what he had planned, she pleaded with him not to do it. I make a difference, and Brother Keith last night made a big difference between someone being overtaken in a fault, and I mentioned it this morning. It's one thing to be overtaken. It's another thing to plan it, plot it, line it up, design it, have everything ready, and then perform sin. She was abused and humiliated. She was no match for his strength. She tried, but she was unable to defend herself against a man who was so much stronger than her. Notice how it's phrased in verse 14. But being stronger than her, she fought him. She tried to stop him. But he forced her, which means it was without consent. It means it was doing everything she can to stop him. He still physically was bigger, stronger, and so he forced her. In verse 18, one of the first things she did, she ripped in pieces the garment of many colors. She put ashes on her head, a sign of shame, embarrassment. She can no longer wear the coat of many colors or the garment of many colors, because that was reserved for the king's daughters who were virgins. She could no longer wear that garment. She had been abused and humiliated. She could no longer wear a symbol of pride as the king's daughter, because she had been treated like a tramp. What about us? You know, in my years, and not even counting the years with the police department, churches, that I didn't even know a police officer. I've dealt with victims for the rest of their life. They never got over what happened. They never got over it. I've worked with some who consciously made the decision, it happened, I can't change it, I'm not going to let it destroy me, I'm going to move on and serve God. I've known both types. The type that moved on and the type that spent the rest of their life reliving and grieving, full of shame over what happened. Now, I do want to throw a couple of things out, and I know this isn't going to apply to you folks, but it'll apply to somebody you know. In cases of forced participation, don't blame yourself. In her case, she did nothing wrong. She was simply trying to help, trying to be a good sister, half-sister, trying to help someone who was sick, trying to help someone she thought was in need. She didn't ask for it. She tried to resist it, but she was forced. Completely against her will. It was the sick, perverted mind of Amnon that perpetrated the incident from start to finish. One thing that I have learned in my experiences, it's estimated, and I've already said this, that at least half of rape victims will never report it. They'll not report it to the police. Most of them will not even report it to their parents. Do you ever wonder why? Why wouldn't she want to report it? And I don't pretend to understand. I'm not a female. I've never been one. I've never transitioned. I've never been molested. But with those that I have dealt with, somehow they feel shame. They blame themselves. The shame of admitting what happened was, the shame was worse than reporting it and having to go public and describe in a complete, exact, great detail on court in a jury, before a jury, to have to explain in detail what happened, and I mean in detail. Many women choose to just bottle it up rather than go through the shame. The blame. I must have done something that set him off. Yeah, you walked down the street. You walked in Walmart. I must have done something. Yeah, you're pretty. The blame and the shame torture some women for the rest of their lives. Some women never get over. Tamar never married after this. And I didn't even get into perish the thought that a child is conceived. That's why many women who are forcibly assaulted will choose abortion over anything else, because that baby represents all the shame and all the blame that I feel. If I can just get rid of the baby, maybe I can blot it out of my mind. Maybe I won't remember it. Every time I look at that baby, it reminds me of how that baby was conceived, and I can't live with that. Looking at that baby and bringing back all the memories of the assault and every aspect of it. Many of them will choose abortion because that baby just brings back memories they can't deal with. But folks, it wasn't Tamar that had the problem. It wasn't Tamar that went out and said, "Somebody molest me, here I am, all of you men come." It wasn't Tamar. It was Amnon through and through, completely, totally, 100%. I said I've dealt with women who have picked up and moved on. They still don't forget. I remember I was pastoring in another state. I'm not even going to tell you what state it was. But a member of the church stopped by one day, stopped by the parsonage. She was in her 40s, 50s maybe. And she sat down in the living room. My wife was with us, and started crying. She had been a member for a while, was one of our outstanding members, faithful, dedicated. And she just sat there and cried and cried. And finally I said, "What's wrong?" And she told us what had happened. My heart went out to her. How do you counsel someone that has been through that? What can you say that will take away the pain and the hurt and the shame and the blame? In her case, it was her own father. And by the way, most assaults are by a relative. First time I heard that, I thought, that can't be right. What man What man would assault his own daughter? Those statistics must be wrong. But they weren't. And they still aren't. It wasn't Tamar's fault. She had to live with the blame. She had to live with the shame. Because some pervert decided he wanted something that was not his to take. Now, for consolation, his day will come. In Amnon's case, he was killed by Tamar's brother Absalom. David should have killed him, but that's a whole nother case. David did nothing. And so Absalom executed capital punishment and killed Amnon. But whether they give account in this life or at the great white throne judgment, he will give an account. Maybe God will save him. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great if God saved him? You may not get it out of your head, but at least he has to make a full confession, give evidence of genuine repentance, and he needs to go back to the girl that he molested and apologize to her and admit what he did. It won't take away all of the blame and shame, but it can at least be a step in the right direction for healing. Whether we like to admit it or not, this is a real problem. It's a real problem. And our modern society is almost made it acceptable. What a shame. What a shame.